Okay.
Look through the pages. Then yeah. Okay, good to know. So yes, my name is Sheng and I'm an maker from Taiwan. And my projects are mostly about the relationship between humans and non-humans in contemporary society. And I work in different media, including video, photographs, sometimes video games, video installations, and recently an escape room. So um, it's quite chaotic or diverse in terms of strategies. And topic-wise, I always start from my daily life. For example, from the food I eat, or from the sound I heard, or from the place I visit, uh, or the things I wear. So it's all started from daily life, and uh, I try to do things by not taking things for granted, because it's very easy for me to take things for granted, just buy things from the supermarket, or just think that, oh, this everything is built for humans, and continue living my life. I'll be totally happy. But if I do not take things for granted, things will become a little bit bizarre. And that is what I feel intrigued and interested in. So in in this project, Extendable Ears, I think it originated from an experience when I was living with my friend a couple of years ago, that I realized that, oh, what is music for me can be a torture for my friend, or uh, what is fine for me. Like I can sleep pretty well with a little bit of a noise in the room, but for my friend, it's again a torture that my friend couldn't sleep at all with a little ventilator working. So I found that noise is very subjective. And then I thought that, oh, maybe noise is also species dependent. Like what we can hear, maybe the other species cannot hear, or the opposite, like maybe the other species are way more sensitive than we are. What we couldn't access, maybe it's a huge sound for your dogs or cats or horses or even other animals. So I thought that, hey, um, maybe there's something that is hidden from my senses, that is accessible by other species that I do not know. Then I realized that the human hearing ability is very limited. Um, we can only hear a narrow range of the sound spectrum. Um, I mean, what we consider audible is only a small range for maybe another species. But there are a whole range of inaudible sound that we could not hear. Uh, so I start researching it and realized that, hey, uh, above the human hearing range, I mean, the sound that is too high for us to hear uh, is accessible by a lot of animals, including house cats, dogs, bats, of course, and even insects or horses. They can hear way higher than we do. So the higher sound that we couldn't hear is called the ultrasound, and the lower end is called the infrasound. But I'm curious about the ultrasound, that the sound that we couldn't hear. Uh, but the fact that I couldn't hear the noise doesn't mean that I cannot produce the noise. I mean, I use all kinds of equipment, tools, or uh, vehicles, bicycles, uh, and appliances. These things are human built, And when we manufacture these tools or vehicles, we seldom measure or never measure the ultrasound range of the noise. Like when we are labeling a hairdryer or a ventilator for noise, we always label the audible sound. We never label the ultrasound noise, which we couldn't hear, but the other species can. So then I realized that noise is also a human-centric concept in most of the time, in most of the situations we are facing. Even in law enforcement, when the police is trying to stop a party because it's too noisy, they always measure the audible part of the noise. No law enforcement will come and measure the ultrasound part of the noise because humans couldn't hear it. And they couldn't arrest you because they don't have the corresponding device to measure the sound. So theoretically, you can throw a huge ultrasound party with a very loud but high noise which humans couldn't hear, and you can annoy all your neighborhood's dogs and cats, and you wouldn't be arrested based on the ground of noise because people couldn't hear it, and maybe nobody will complain, and and the police wouldn't come. Even if they come, they couldn't measure it. So it's quite a human-centric concept. So I became curious. Am I the producer of these high-pitched sound when I'm living through my daily life? Or am I living in this kind of an ultrasound-rich environment that I'm not aware of? So I became intrigued by this. But what can I do? Um, oh, I couldn't hear these sounds. How do I know? Then I did a little bit of research, and I realized that, hey, there's a pretty available technology made already that I can modify this acoustic technology a little bit to produce this hearing aid. I mean, it's kind of like a hearing aid for me to hear the higher range of the sound that I couldn't hear. So I made this device which allows me to have the hearing range of a house cat that I can wear on my head through a headphone. So uh, I can hear what the house cat can hear frequency wise. I can also hear what I can hear originally, but it's another layer of noise or sound added uh, to my hearing ability. So with this device, it's a wearable device, so I can wear it to almost anywhere I want. Then I have this idea to wear this device continuously for 1 month to see if I'll go crazy. You may think that, oh, this is very stupid idea, but hey, if you look at a house cat or other animals, they have no choice. They have no choice. They have ear built into their skull, so they are equipped with this hearing ability, whether they want it or not. For me, I can have the choice of taking off this device after 1 month. So I think that doing this for 1 month, I think it's comparing with other animals, it's a piece of cake. So I said, oh, I can wear it for 1 month, and day and night. During daytime, I wear it, and when I sleep, I also wear it to see if I'll go crazy. And with this device on my head, I just live my life. I do this project 2 weeks in Taiwan and 2 weeks in the Netherlands. traveling on an airplane in between to complete this month. But how do I know if I'm getting crazy? Should I get a MRI scan or something like that? Some doctors suggest that I should get a scan or something to see if my brain is fried or something. But then I thought that maybe that is not very interesting because I'm not a doctor. I don't know what does MRI scan graph means, and maybe my audience doesn't know as well. But then I realized that when I'm wearing this device, I began to have very strange dreams. At first, I can I can wake up in the middle of the night and I start laughing really hard, like this happens several days, and then I realized that my dream scenarios is off. That I'm having dreams in 3D animation. Oh, everything is 3D animation, and then I have dreams in like a 2D animation. Like everything is in two-dimensional animation. Hey, that never happened before. So I thought that maybe something is happening to me subconsciously that I don't realize. So I have since then I start recording my dreams. I kept a dream diary. Every night I dream, and during daytime I write down my dream in a dream diary, and I also put a security camera above my bed. Actually, I put security camera everywhere in my studio, in my house, to monitor myself during this period of time. So I'm kind of like a white rat in the laboratory that is monitored by some scientists. But in this case, I put myself in the position of a lab rat. So so during sleep, I record myself, and during daytime, I also record myself to see what I'm doing. And during my daytime, I just live my life. I go to places and I cook, I eat, and I travel, just do things I normally would. And in the same time, I recorded my surroundings with a 360 camera. And on the other hand, I hold an ultrasound microphone, which captures the real ultrasound of the environment. And I recorded them almost daily. I went to different places just to see if there are some strange sounds going on. And indeed, there are a lot of strange sounds in our society that we couldn't hear. It ranges from daily activities like washing your hands. Actually, the tap water emits a huge amount of ultrasound that is almost unbearable, that I have to turn my head away when I'm washing my hand. And also from all sorts of ventilators, all sorts of things that is rubbing together, like a bicycle chain. A lot of things that we think that is normal actually produces a lot of inaudible noise. And it became very apparent, very clear to me. I mean, these sounds. I can hear bicycle from very, very far away. And I can also hear people playing with their keys. I mean, if you have a key, like if you do this, it will also emit a lot of ultrasound by clinking metals together. So sometimes on the street, I hear this clinking ultrasound noise, and I didn't see any keys. And then I saw a woman with her hand in her pocket, and I know that, oh, she's playing with her keys in her pocket. So I'm kind of ultra sensitive in this way, that I began to hear a lot of sound that I couldn't access before, and to a point that it's become quite annoying.
Can I ask you something? But because I imagine that it's also pretty confusing then how to move in the city, right? Because if you're listening to so many sounds, that it's isn't it confusing to know where, like, when can you actually cross a street, or like I imagine it can be a little bit overwhelming.
Yeah, oftentimes it's quite distracting. I would say that
Yeah.
when you when this whole new soundscape is imposed on me, sometimes it is indeed overwhelming, and sometimes things will get really loud, and sometimes I have to run away because it's too loud. I don't want to get a permanent hearing damage, so I
Yeah,
run.
yeah,
I just run away from things like this kind of vehicle that sweeps the floor. I mean,
yeah.
on the street, there are vehicles that is scraping the floor and push the garbage away from the street. This kind of vehicle is it's an ultrasound monster, and I can. It's really like a monster. Like when I saw this vehicle operating from far away, I will go on another street because I cannot go
Yeah,
near that thing. It's overwhelming,
yeah.
and sometimes well, a lot of different things. Uh, but surprisingly, a lot of things with noise that is apparent for human does not emit a lot of ultrasound. For example, the tram, the cars does not emit a lot of ultrasound.
Okay.
Even the airplane, it doesn't emit too much ultrasound. But it's noisy for human, but
Yeah.
it's not too much ultrasound rich. Well, when the car brakes, when it is trying to stop, it does emit some ultrasound.
Okay.
Or when a tram is stopping and emits ultrasound. But when it is running, it's fine. So things are
Cool.
surprising too. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So I ride my bike and I go to places. Like this is a kind of like a water barrier in the Netherlands that is keeping the Netherlands from flooding. And in this segment, there are a lot of wind farms, like the electric generating wind farms, and that also emit some sound. And when I went back to Taiwan, I go back to my hometown. And at first I thought that, hey, I'm in the Netherlands for 2 weeks. I hear all sorts of different sounds. It won't be too surprising when I visit. But when I go back to Taiwan, the soundscape changed totally. And I was so surprised because people use different vehicles on the street, and people have uh, different jobs, different industries, and different cooking method also produce different also ultrasound. It's really cultural dependent how the ultrasound soundscape sounds like. So like in this oil refinery in my hometown, I continue to hear a very strange but steady sound, uh, very strong pulsating sound in this environment. But it was like a totally quiet if I put my headphone away. But I continuously hear this ultrasound pulsating in this seemingly calm night. And I can hear the bats flying around the space because the bats can emit ultrasound when they are echolocating in their environment. And they are on the same they are on the same frequency band. So it's like a symphony, like the bat is a calling, and also the the oil refinery is also emits this very strange sound that they are mingling together. But with our human ear, we couldn't hear anything. So yeah, I don't know if the refinery sound is affecting the bats or not, but we couldn't really know, and probably no one cares. But I cannot find the source of this sound emitting from this refinery. It's very strange that sometimes I couldn't locate the source of the sound, even if I really wanted to. I just live my life and go to the places that in my hometown. This is a beach in Kending, in the south part of Taiwan, and and there's also some very strange sound from either from nature or from water motorcycles. A lot of different things going on, and when we go back to Taiwan, we would go to the dentist to fix our teeth because it's cheaper there. And I wouldn't recommend bringing your cat to the dentist or to a clinic, because everything the dentist use will emit a huge amount of ultrasound noise that is saturating the every equipment I have. I almost got hearing damage. I have to turn down the volume a bit to avoid damaging my eardrum. Like literally everything the dentists use, the, uh, the dental drills or the things that emit water, everything emits a lot of ultrasound. And if your cat or dog is there, they will definitely be not happy about it, for sure. Uh, scientifically speaking, uh, uh, actually scientists are not interested in this topic as well, because what is the value of this science? And there's only one or a handful of research papers that is focused on the ultrasound effect on animals. I was very surprised that maybe I can only find less than 10 papers researching on this topic. Well, there are more research on marine animals like dolphins or something, but on land animals, there's not much research. And the most relevant paper is done 31 years ago in the UK. But in that research, it's enough. It says that it's proven that when you when a rat is exposed in high intensity ultrasound noise, it can be permanently damaged in a short amount of time, maybe as short as 10 seconds or 20 seconds of high intensity ultrasound exposure. The rat will be different. I mean, in throughout their life, they will have a higher chance of developing audiogenic seizure, or they will have their reproduction ability cut in half for female rats, and they will have long-term high blood pressure, and it's amazing how quickly an animal will be traumatized, given that they are exposed in a high intensity ultrasound or normal sound. In that sense, it's also the case. But yeah, we really don't know which devices are emitting the sound unless we really try to access these sounds, and and perhaps I can never have the experience of a cat, because what I experience is definitely what a cat experienced, because I translate the ultrasound to audible range that I can hear and superimpose it with my original hearing. So I'm not experiencing what I'm experiencing is still a human experience. It's not like I became a cat, but but it's the closest thing that I can do. That I cannot biotransform my ear, but I can at least try to access the sound that I couldn't hear before. So what I did is not a scientific research, but it's a, I would say, my best attempt trying to feel what it is like to be a cat.
And can I ask you something? Like apart from the strange dreams, after you completed this month of using this device, um, did you feel like uh permanent, like when when you go like to a concert, or when you're exposed to really like high or like bass music, that then after that you feel that you listen to a small like b, like something like that, that it could end in being tinnitus or something like a disease like that. But
Yeah, yeah,
you were,
yeah, yeah. That is what I was worrying before I do the project, because I don't want to get a permanent hearing loss. That is
yeah,
very easy to get if you are exposed to high intensity noise, like maybe not ultrasound, but normal sound
yeah.
it can cause a permanent hearing damage. So in this respect, I consult with two of my doctors, two of my physicians, and they advise me how to build a device in a safe way that I can always manually control the volume. So I can
I see.
so I won't get a hearing loss if the sound is too much. I can save myself
Mm-hmm.
from damaging my hearing. But mental wise, something, yes, I did change after this experiment, that I'm way more sensitive to noise
Mm.
after this so-called experiment. If you remember, before I can sleep totally fine with a little bit of a noise. Now I could not.
Okay.
I'm more sensitive to
Yeah.
noise in general. And for the first few days after I took off this device, when the experiment end, I behave also differently. I feel that I lost an ability, and when I wash my hand, I still turn my head away, because that is just what I used to for this month. And when I see things that emits a lot of ultrasound, I naturally go so away from that thing.
It's like you
And
gain more like reflex of an animal.
yeah, it's it's yeah, because I think the human behavior change. I think uh, human adapt to a new sensory experience in about a week or two. So for the first week, I just continue with my habits when I'm wearing this device.
Yeah.
And this is how the project was shown in the museum. But yeah, that is not the main point of this presentation, I think. But I would like to add that a lot of my colleague would ask that, hey, uh, what is the urgency uh, of trying to access the other species sensory experience, because we can never feel what it is like to be a cat. We can just try. We can never feel the other species. But I will argue that yes, of course, we cannot feel another species. We couldn't really feel another human in this sense as well. But the fact that we couldn't feel another human uh, doesn't stop us from uh, uh, doesn't stop us from imagining what it is like to be another human. For example, if your friend is sick, you start imagining how bad he or she feels. Uh, but when we are talking about another species, then people start making excuses that, oh, it's another species. We couldn't really feel that species. Then there's no need because we couldn't really be a cat or be a bat. Uh, uh, so my question is, why doesn't this stop you from caring your friend or parents or family, but it stops you from trying to um, think about another species.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, you couldn't feel your parents or your brother or your sister anyway.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's
I,
like
I,
a lack of empathy, right?
yeah, and I would think that uh, we well, we couldn't feel another species. That's a fact. That's one story. But uh, doesn't if we don't care at all uh, how other species feel, based on the fact that we couldn't feel that species, it's another story. And I believe that with this device on my head, I mean, I can, uh, I mean, I couldn't feel what it is like to be a cat, but I can maybe start imagining what it is like to be a cat. That is
Mm-hmm.
what I'm trying to do. And I think imagining is the first step if we want to
Yeah,
explore the different relationship between humans and non-humans. I mean, imagining is the first step, and I think that is the step prior to what comes next. And maybe imagining comes before the attempt of representing the non-humans, I think.
yeah. I think I think it's super interesting, and I also wonder because I was reading about other projects that here in Spain that some artists are working with people who are blind, and how they have developed more uh, their audition, because when you it's when you miss one of your senses, the other ones develop more, right? You get more sensitive with the other ones. So I also wonder, I mean, this sort of this experiment is also interesting to translate it, or to try it in how is that the audition of a person who cannot see, uh it's also developing more the other sense.
Yeah,
It's just one thought.
and and also the fact that we are quite limited by our senses. Um,
Exactly.
like well, uh, if everybody is blind, if everybody couldn't see, we will develop a new way of living. If everybody couldn't hear, we will develop another way of hearing.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, but imagining that for another species, they have probably less or more sensory device built into their bodies. It will be a totally different world for them. I mean,
yeah,
we designed our world based on our senses and our abilities to navigate the world. Uh, but the non-humans, plants or animals alike, they are forced to be maybe mingle with us in our human-designed society.
yeah,
That is, I think, that is, of course, maybe another story. But I would say that the world is well, the world where human exist is mostly designed for human. But I would argue that we can maybe start imagining what it is like to be a non-human, navigating the world not designed for them. And, that is another story in my next project, of course. But that is the path I'm trying to navigate.
Yeah, that's super cool. Um, yeah, I think it's also a matter of having the possibility to, or the interest to pay more attention, because I'm not sure if it's only that it's the we're living in human designed like cities. Of course, humans are the one taking most of the decisions, but it's also, I think that in other species adapt and they are also imposing other conditions to ourselves, right? So it's more being able to understand this balance and this conviviality, I believe. And
Yes.
I'm curious of how when you presented this project, this image that we're looking at, um, like what were the how was the installation? I imagine that you were sharing your dreams and so on, but what else?
Uh, well, I I decided uh, I decided not to let the audience to experience these sounds inside the space, but I do play the ultrasound through a speaker in a space. So actually,
uh,
the space seems quiet, but in fact that there is a lot of ultrasound noise inside the space. And the reason why I do this is that if I allow the audience to wear this device and hear the space, hear the noise, then the focus of this work is off. That I will argue that the project is not about this device. It's not about it's not about this. Uh, it's not about I made this device that can allow you to hear ultrasound. It's not about this, but it's about the action, the attempt to do this. It's not about the technology. It's about the it's about it's about why I make this device. It's not about the technology itself. So I hidden this experience from the audience. So uh, uh, I would argue that um, sometimes if you couldn't hear the sound, your imagination can be more powerful than if you can hear the sound.
mhm.
And that also works in cinema as well. Like in movie making, sometimes you make the film stronger by not showing something, and
Yeah,
that is what I intend here, because uh, the sound is not the focus here. It's the action. And and another reason why I do not allow the audience to hear the sound is that, well, the sound is not a actual representation of what a cat would hear. In this case, I avoid this confusion that if the audience wear this device, maybe they will think that, oh, this is what a cat hear. It's not.
mhm.
It's a translated sound. Um, uh, that maybe an audience would think that, oh, if I make this sound, it sounds very nice to me, then it must be sounding very nice to a cat. That is not
Yeah,
the case, of course. If I play with my keys, oh, it sounds so nice. So my cat must like this sound. Of course, that is not what I'm aiming for here. That would cause a lot of misunderstanding.
yeah,
And indeed, there are uh, indeed, the quality of the sound differs from things to different things. The bicycle sounds pretty nice to me, but it may not sound very nice to a cat. Uh, I have a friend who has an exercise bicycle machine inside her house. She like the ones in the gym. You can pedal on it all the day indoors and without moving a single centimeter. But when she was exercising on this kind of exercise bicycle in her house, her cat would always come and try to stop her. But she doesn't understand why the cat would want to stop her every time she was on this bike. Now she's almost certain that this exercise device can emit a very bad ultrasound that the cat doesn't really like. In fact, in our houses, if you have a dog or cat, they can be scared of vacuum cleaners or hair dryers.
Yeah,
I'm,
my cat hates the vacuum cleaner.
yeah, before I suspect that it does have some ultrasound from that vacuum cleaner or hair dryer, and when I wear this device, I can attest that the vacuum cleaner and the hair dryer does emit a huge amount of ultrasound that is not very nice when I wear this device. So yeah, a lot of household device may sound okay for us, may sound good for us. It may not sound very nice to your cat or other animals in your house.
Yeah,
And
it's also for me. It's also super funny when I put music that I like a lot, but my cat hates it.
you know that in the, I think in the, oh, maybe I find it on Spotify that there are music designed for cat.
Ah, really?
Really.
He loves when I put only piano.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Most of the time, when it is some music that is slower and calmer, the animals enjoy more.
Yeah,
There's
but
a
nothing produced with synthesizers.
no, no, no. There's a research in the UK that is focused on which kind of music does a cow like. I mean the dairy cow in the farm, and the cow prefer classical piano or rather than pop music. Yeah, it's because the farmers sometimes listen to radio in the dairy
Yeah.
farm, and sometimes it annoys the cow. And sometimes the
Yeah.
cow likes the sound and they produce more milk.
Yeah, so that's another aspect that I was thinking about, that because I saw a series on Netflix that's called Connections or something like that. But they talk how some technology is developed to understand more the feelings of animals, but with which end, right? Because that's another question. Like in the UK, there were I think, yeah, in Scotland they were producing studying through machine learning when the pigs were happier and feeling better by analyzing like their faces, etc. But the end of that, like they want to know when the pig is feeling better, just to know when are they going to get a better meat. So the end of all that development of technology to know more about them is only like a human interest, right, of producing better meat. So that's also an aspect which I don't like about that type of research.
In agriculture, I think, or even in many uh, industry, when we try to take care of another species, uh, in the current situation is that we always has to factor in the interest of human and farmer and the interest of the supermarket is part of the business ecosystem. Uh, but uh, Personally, I think I'm okay, or I like the research that focus on this kind of making the farm more friendly. Is well, I mean, if the research will indeed make the farm better, or will make the hip, or make the chicken or the pig or the cow happier throughout their life. I think it is okay, even though that well, they produce better milk or meat in the end. Uh, that is part of the game, because the farmers are involved, and
Yeah.
and and people, and people have to make money, and researcher also have to convince the farmers to do this kind of a research based on the fact that it will benefit both parties, or multiple parties, animals, humans, farmers alike. uh, some of my friend doesn't like the idea of a friend uh, uh, animal friendly meat industry. They think that, oh, you are going to kill the cow anyway. How can there be a, animal or cow friendly slaughterhouse, or chicken friendly farm? How can anything be like that? Well, in this case, I do not always agree with my friend, because uh, well, the process of species life does matter. I mean, uh, well, every human will die. I will die, you will die, and all the living person right now will die. Can we argue that, oh, because we will all die, and then the process of living this life doesn't matter at all? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah. No,
of
no,
course,
no. I agree with you. Yeah.
yeah. Some of my friends would say that, oh, yeah, the animal, you are going to kill it anyway. But I think that does not mean that, oh, the quality of that life doesn't matter.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, I'm sorry if I took the talk to that place. I know that
It's okay.
that
It's a
that I mean, your project in a way allows us to think about that, but I think it's also about, I mean, it's super interesting in the sense of being able to try to understand how other species move through our societies as well, or how we move with them. But it's also, I think, a possibility to expand your own senses, right, and your own sensibility as well. So I think it's super interesting in that way as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, shit. You have another project. I don't really remember the details, but I think it was something related to your temperature in the North Pole.
Yeah, I saw that one as well. It's
Because we had an
The,
artist doing that, some device related to his body temperature. So I thought maybe you can.
down, yeah, down.
yeah, this is a pretty silly project that I did after I graduate. that that after I graduate, I applied to this residency called the Arctic Circle residency, which is a residency very close to the North Pole in the Svalbard archipelago, and it's not as cold as the North Pole, but it's pretty cold. It's colder than the Netherlands. So I have to prepare for this residency, but um, but well, I don't know what to do. I mean, well, I have some very rough idea, but I don't like my ideas. So at that time, started to pack my luggages. I have to prepare for clothing for the Arctic, and they have a whole list of recommendations of what I should bring. And I remember that they mentioned that, oh, maybe you can prepare a down jacket as a middle layer to your anti climate uh, uh, outfit, and I never had a down jacket before, so I thought that, oh, this is a product made with goose feathers, with the down feathers. That is what we call them, the fluffy feathers. We call them down, and and long story short is that I dig into this project. I dig into this jacket production process that and in the end that I cannot really tell where exactly these feathers came from. So uh, so I struggled a bit, and I said, oh, should I buy a jacket or not? Because I don't know if I'm getting a jacket that involves in a in a terrible practice where people pluck the geese alive when they try to make the feathers came off their body. Some of the farmers will pluck the geese when they're alive and harvest the feathers this way, which is extremely painful for the geese. Then I took a walk in the park near my house, and I saw some very fat white geese strolling in my neighborhood park, and they naturally shed a lot of feathers on the ground, on the grass. Where they were eating their meal, they just shed their feathers. Then I thought that, hey, maybe I can collect the feathers from the ground. I just pick up all the feathers from the ground and make a jacket. And maybe I can go to the Arctic with this jacket I made to see if I will die. And then I make a little calculation of how many feathers I need to make a half decent jacket, and despite all my friends telling me not to do this, but I still want to try. And so I collect feathers for, I think, less than 2 months, because that's the time limit. After 2 months, I have to go to the residency. So in that period of time, I collected, I think, 3,000 feathers from the ground. That is about a third or half what I need to make a decent jacket. But I still got something like a jacket. I still have some feathers inside. I still want to wear it to the Arctic to see if I'll die by making this down jacket by myself. Sorry, I couldn't play the video here, but this is so that is me, and
yeah, I saw part of the video and on the Vimeo.
Yeah, maybe I can drag through this or not, like this. Yeah, so that is me picking up the feathers. It's the video.
It's funny how they look at you.
Yeah, they expect me to feed them.
Yeah.
Because I'm a guy with a plastic bag.
Yeah.
So they always expect me to feed them. And at home, I clean every single feather with water and a bit of a soap. I don't have a studio at that time, so I just use my room and I make a huge mess. And I buy a 10 euro jacket and I cut it open and put every fiber out and stuff the feathers I have into this jacket, and I don't have a sewing machine, so I sew with a needle and a thread in a very bad way. And the day I finish the jacket is the day I go to the Arctic, and that is the schedule.
And was it working actually?
Yes, you might wonder if it's warm enough after all this stupid work. The answer is no. It's not
It's
warm
not
enough.
warm enough.
But
Yeah.
does it make a difference? Yes, it makes a huge difference. I feel much better after I put the jacket on.
Yeah.
I actually I still feel cold, but it helped me survive. I mean, without this jacket, it's not survivable.
Yeah.
I mean, with this thermal test, it raised my surface temperature 2 degrees in 30 seconds. That is something,
Wow.
and that keeps me alive. I mean, the goal is not to be like a super cozy, but just to stay alive is good enough for me.
Yeah, because you didn't have enough time to collect more feathers.
Yeah, if you have a year, I suppose that people can do it with no problem. If you are living in a country that you can access some geese in a park, maybe it's not very difficult. In fact, I did make a manual that you can download it from my website, or you can get it in print in some places, that you can follow my steps, and you can indeed make a decent jacket on your own. And this is a challenge for all the people. So if the first person successfully made this jacket based on this method as described in the manual, you can win a free traveling trip to the Arctic. So that is the challenge going on now, and I have an Instagram page dedicated to this challenge. So people who are participating in this challenge, they post their photos on which
Really?
step they're on right now, and right now I think the leader of this competition already collected more feather than I ever did. So
That's great.
so she's very close to winning the Arctic trip, I think. But there are also other competitions for her as well. And the deal is she has to wear this jacket to the Arctic. So
Yeah.
she's planning to put more inside.
Yeah, I guess. So I was having like a question since I saw your website and also throughout your presentation, that and I don't want to cut if you wanted to tell something more, but it's more a general question.
Sure.
That you define yourself as a maker and not as an artist. And I mean, from my very brief knowledge of like makers movement, etc., and the fact that you produce a manual or a graphic, like you share the strategies through graphics for others to continue and to like repeat the steps, and it's more like a work of open source in a way. um, I wondered if you could develop a little bit more on this concept, on why you call yourself a maker, and which is, in your point of view, like the difference with an artist.
Well, first of all, I don't know what exactly an artist is. So I don't have a clear definition for an artist. So how can I call myself an artist if, if I don't know what it is? That is my small problem. But I do work mostly in the artistic discourse because I really appreciate the diversity of the audience. I mean, art does not have a huge audience like mass media or something, uh, but uh, but in the artistic discourse, the audience is very diverse. It can be anybody. I mean, this is a way for me to step outside my comfort zone. I mean, if I stay inside my comfort zone, which I have a group of friends who really like to explore the relationship between humans and non-humans, then everybody would agree with me. Then I don't have a lot of different aspects and different point of view. I couldn't get that. But within the artistic or maker discourse, then I cannot predict who the audience is. So I work in the artistic discourse without calling myself an artist. And for me, maker is a more diverse term. Of course, you can make art. You can also make things that is well not so art, that you can maybe present it in also a non-artistic discourse that will totally fit in as well. So I don't limit myself to artistic context or discourse in a sense where I present. I also, for me, I also show my work in different public spaces as well. For example, in city halls. I sometimes show my videos there. So when people are trying to renew their ID, there's a TV on the corner that you can see some of my work there. So that is not an artistic venue, but I think that people will always have to renew their ID from time to time. Maybe they don't go to the museum; they can see the work in the city hall as well. I would say, why not? I don't limit my work to be shown in a white cube or something. And yes, I think I'm a person that can make things. Not necessarily art, but I can make things based on my limited abilities. And I mean, everybody have their discourse, everybody have their abilities. My ability is to maybe to make some videos and photos and sometimes some structures. So that is my limited abilities. So when I live through my life, I just think that, hey, what can I do if I don't take things for granted with my limited abilities? What can I do as me, as a person? Can I make something? Can I do something? So the question always starts like that, and sometimes I can, sometimes I cannot. I mean that is how I see things, and perhaps I'm not an expert in making things, but I try my best to work within my abilities and explore the possibilities to see what I can do further.
And thanks, Sheng. And also I was wondering because our project, through our project we have tackled different concepts also, like low tech, which is one of the characteristics that is attached to artists who work with technology, mainly in South America. I mean, there are artists who work with low technology throughout the whole world, but there are different approaches to that, right? And so, of course, in like the makers movement, I think it was also, it's very big also in the US, also in Europe, etc. But when researching a little bit about low technology in South America, there was one of the interests as well is to be able to transform a device and to know what how does the technology you're working with, how does that work, and being able in a way to go inside the how that is programmed, right? So one question that's, because we were reading and talking about that throughout our projects, one question that it's interesting for me as well is is it important for you, and maybe you have already somehow answered it, but is it important for you to be able to create and make every device that you're working with? Because I understand that by the extendable years, you created that device, or you, I that's a question. I mean, if it's, is it important for you always to create the device?
You mean always create things from the ground up?
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
I would say no. For me, creating things from the ground up is not always the most important thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
It also depends on the project. Uh, it also depends on my abilities as well. And also depends on the situation. Of course, creating things is fun. I mean, creating things from the ground up, it takes time, but I would agree that it's a fun thing to do, and you learn things from it, and you know how every detail is constructed, and that is sometimes very crucial for projects. So if the project asks for it, I think that is very important. But for other projects, uh, sometimes it is not always necessary for me to create everything from scratch. And we also have to define scratch in this way,
Yeah, of course, because it's
because
always something
yeah,
pre-produced. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. If you want to make really something from scratch, like I know some person made a toaster from scratch, and it has to make all the plastic or things from scratch, and then it's of course different from sourcing things from a hardware store and build
Yeah,
it with
yeah.
screws or something. So this path can go a very long, a very deep way through what exactly is a scratch. But for me,
Yeah.
that is not the most important issue at hand. The most important issue for me is to respond to the question I have in mind, and to pinpoint where exactly the problem is, and develop my project based on that research question. That is more important for me than building everything by hand. For example, in this project, in the down project, I didn't make the entire jacket by myself. I don't have this technique. I don't have a sewing machine, and I don't have
Yeah.
the experience of doing that. I did research into the possibility to do that, but I soon realized that it would take longer than maybe several weeks before I mastered the technique to really build a jacket from the ground up. And
Yeah.
at that time, I have only 1.5 months left. I also have to collect all the feathers. So in that limited amount of time, I do not I do not think that, oh, I should build the jacket from the
Yeah.
fabric, and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I can focus on collecting the feathers, because that is the point I want to execute. I
Stress.
want to
Yeah.
yeah, or
Yeah.
stress, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, also because our project, we invite like 3 performance artists to make a performance in response to the notion of embodied interface. So because we are thinking how technological device, in your case is the ultrasound device and the jacket, like how this kind of tools or technological device affect our body, and what are the relationship between these two things. So I just want to ask like your perspective on like what is the role of your body in these two projects. And also I feel like first-handed experience is important for you. Like both of these projects has this first-handed experience of body, and maybe you
Yes.
can elaborate a bit more.
Yes. Actually, before these two projects, I have never really done anything with my body. I mean, project-wise, I have never done anything with my body. I created video games before. I created videos before, but never put myself at stake in the equation. So this question is very good because in these two projects, I'm exploring what does it mean to have myself being put into this formula or equation, and and for me at the time, I think that I first of all, it is quite apparent for me that if I want to uh, research on this topic, given the circumstances, using my own body would be the most logical way and also the cheapest way, rather than hiring another person to experiment on. And I also am quite selfish in a sense because I want to experience the whole process and I want to know what it is, what does it feel like. So in these two projects, I am the I see myself as a lab rat, the rat in the laboratory, and but I'm both the researcher and the subject. I'm both the scientist or the pseudoscientist and the rat. So I perform these things on myself uh, and I'd also try to understand what it is like to be involved in a series of events that resorts to direct experience. So I have no prior knowledge of this before, and that is my starting point.
So the direct experience of your body, and yeah, because there's one saying that it's not you control the technology, but actually the technology controls you back. So because like before we don't use cell phones, and now everyone's using cell phone, and then we start to have a different environment and different experience of life after we have cell phones. And then also because in other part of our project we talk about net.art and how internet culture influence our works and our body affection. Although these projects are not like strictly about internet culture, but you are also like sort of almost born digital, right? When you're and also in this era, do you think there's some relationship or not really?
Mm.
Or generally about this network culture, because of course it will be different if you did this in the 90s or 80s. What is the specificity when you did this after 2000?
Well, from my point of view, technology uh, it allows me to it allows me to do things that I couldn't do without technology. I
Like
mean
a tool.
that sounds like a tool, but
Yeah.
but maybe there's more to it. I'm not so sure, but my relationship with technology, I think maybe it works both ways. I don't feel controlled by the technologies I built. Maybe we couldn't say that the down jacket is a good example. Maybe in the extendable years, I don't feel like I'm controlled by the device I built, but rather that I access the world through the technology I built. It does cause me trouble. I mean, this thing I built does make me sick after several weeks. But I don't feel that the technology owns me. That in a way that, but this device I built is not designed like the internet to. It's not a device. It's not a technology to really help me make a better life. I mean, the internet and the cell phones, or a lot of technology we built, either they are for military or they are for well-being. My device is like neither of those. It's not for my well-being. It's not for military purpose, but it's something that I built to explore a question. I think that differs uh, a lot of artistic device from daily device. Sometimes we are controlled by technology because uh, people has a natural tendency to rely on some technology that makes them feel better or seemingly feel better, like instant messaging device uh, or vehicles or leisure devices. It makes them feel better in a way. But these devices, like Xiangyun said, may be binding, may be addictive, and may sometimes be controlling people in a sense that that people cannot live without these devices. Well, but for me, it's a different case. I think my device is not built based on the notion of making my life better. It's a, like you said, it's a tool, but maybe it's a tool that allows me to explore. It's not very addictive, obviously, and maybe that's why I don't feel really controlled by it.
Yeah. Okay, I have one last question. Is because when we were talking with the other net artists, the earlier net artists who did net art in the 80s, when they start to explore internet as their artistic practice, they have this idea that, you know, they are not, I mean, they are doing art, but they are also partially doing political acts, or maybe also in other field, in other era in art history, that at some point or some artists, they will argue that they are doing uh, they are like activists, or they are doing political acts. And then there was this question, like, if their artwork really changed the society, or they really have some potentiality to against the established institution. Like net artists, they don't like to exhibit in the white cubes, so they think, oh, they make a website and it's open to everyone on the internet without influence by an institution. That's really a good aspect of net art. And I'm wondering, because your projects focus on environmental issue and the care of non-humans, what do you think, like, about this relationship between your artworks and social change, but or the potential of this also anti-institutional aspect that you also mentioned in the talk?
Well, from time to time, people will ask me if I am an activist. And for me, at least I can say that I'm not an activist in the traditional sense. That is, I would say that I'm not trying to evaluate my work based on how much I can change the society, and that is not my goal at the moment. My goal is, if there's a goal, I mean, I would say that my attempt is to trying to smuggle some questions or some seeds into people's mind. I would say I will use the word smuggle because I don't think that detective strategy is the best method in contemporary society. We cannot really brought forth an idea to people's mind by simply telling them what to think and what to do, but maybe with some seemingly harmless or silly or funny art project, maybe people are more willing to take a look at it. And if I'm lucky, people may start to make questions on their own or ask questions on their own. Well, if people ask questions spontaneously, I mean, they ask questions on their own, they are already thinking about this topic. And for me, these questions will last way longer than if I tell them what to think or what to do. So that is the first aspect. The second aspect is that I differ from the traditional activistic approach. Is that normally I don't have a conclusion on my own. What I'm trying to do is trying to spark off questions and debates, because I believe that our society doesn't need a fixed conclusion. It needs a dynamic train of thought. If there's a conclusion, the conclusion should be dynamic because the world is changing. And the conclusion, whatever it is, should also change based on how the world is changing. So there should never be a fixed conclusion or divine truth in this sense. And in order to dynamically optimize these conclusions, the discussion should go on, should continue. So that is why I wish that my work can be helping this ongoing or continuing questioning of things in the world. So I don't judge my work based on how many people I influence. I always think that, hey, if I can perhaps allow one audience to think after they go home, then that's already enough for me, because I cannot underestimate what a single person can do after they took this thought back to their home or their studio or their work. I cannot underestimate a single person. So for me, that is quite enough. And for the question that is more or less related to the openness of net art, I'm definitely I think I'm definitely fond of this trend that making things open and accessible for for people, not locking things inside the white cube. Because, well, let's face it, a lot of people doesn't go to a white cube, and a lot of people doesn't see art or let alone buy art. So I definitely agree that we should be more open about the venues which we show the work. Of course, you people doesn't have to give up white cube if they don't want to give up white cube, but why not show the work in other venue or online or open, or be more open about where they show the work. I mean, it doesn't hurt. From my perspective, it doesn't hurt to show the work in a city hall and showing in a white cube at the same time if you cannot give that up. I mean, there are people or artists should be given the freedom to explore the domains in which they show their work, not by and not be restricted by this all kind of the market or some um, appearances that people are trying to formulate for the artists. Uh, I believe that artists and art shouldn't be imagined as something high on a podium. It, I think that it should be accessible by people in general. That is my personal thought in this.
Thank you. Thank you for your dynamic conclusion.
Thank you.
Danielle, you have more questions?
No, I mean,
it's a good conclusion, right?
Yeah, I think it's super interesting. I mean, I'm only curious about if you have, because you say that for you it's important to take, in a way, to leave conclusions open and dynamic, as you said, and also arrive to conclusions with others. And I was wondering if you have ever worked or in the format of a collective, or if you're wondering of including like this interaction with others. I mean, you are in a way including interactions with non-humans in some of the projects that you presented to us, but I was wondering if that was of any interest for you or not.
By collective, you mean to collaborate?
Like with other artists or with other people in the process of making a project.
Yes, indeed. I throughout these projects, I am collaborating with different people. From the very beginning of my practice, well, my practice is a little bit funny. For every project, I will create this work group online, and I invite people who are interested in this project or related to this project into this work group. They can be other makers, they can be collaborative makers, they can be environmentalists or scientists or curators. I invite people into this group if they are interested in my process or collaborating with me. So collaboration has always been quite an important part in my practice, especially for the latest project, which I collaborated with an organization in the Netherlands called the Parliament of Things, or the Embassy of the North Sea. We do work very together with designers, with scientists, and also with sometimes also with policymakers. So that is, cool. I think it's very important for me not to work on my own, because I witness and believe in synergy, in how we can co-create. For example, if I try to make some soundtrack, a composer will be will make a very good soundtrack, which I couldn't make in my lifetime. So
Yeah.
in this case, if the project allows, I believe that collaboration and synergy is very crucial in my practice.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, that's great, and I think it's pretty clear in your ethos of work. But I also wanted to point it out more explicitly because it's also for me making it more clear and super interesting to know this part of the process of your work. And I think in
to
so
add a
yeah,
little bit
yeah,
to the previous question, I believe that the audience is also involved in the whole process
yeah,
of my project as well, especially in the in a project that are more interactive. I mean, most of my project has a little bit of interactiveness inside. From the, for example, from the Down project, I invite the public to create this jacket, which
yeah,
some of them are doing, and and I also created video games before that that people can take the front row seat in navigating through a question by exerting their own choices inside these video games. And my latest project is an escape room. So the participant in this escape room is one of the most important part of the entire space, because the people inside this room activate the project. The project cannot be realized without the interactiveness between the public and the space, and how they experience the experience is the true part of the of that project. So the public audience is also part of this collaborative equation, I think
yeah.
you just mentioned.
Thank you. That's great. I mean, I see after all this presentation, I think there are, in a way, many values that that are common to most of the artists that we have talked to. But through working with technology and with a very strong attention to how the devices affect the body and vice versa. But I mean, they are definitely using different media, but in a way, some of the research questions and processes are very similar.
Yes.
Because also interactivity and be allowing the audience or the viewer to be part of the artwork and to, in a way, reproduce it or make the artwork from its own. It's also something that it's very important for low-tech artists from South America or net artists as well. So that's
Yes.
I don't know, Xianyun, if you want to add something.
Yeah, I know, I'm fine. Yeah, thank you for both.
Thank you, Tendra. Thank you, Sheng.
Yeah, it has been super interesting to get to know more of your practice, Sheng. Thank you. And yeah, we're looking. I want to know more about like your future projects in the future. So I hope we can stay in touch.
Yes, let me know if you are near the Netherlands. Please let me know.
Yeah.
And also
in
in
Taipei.
Taiwan. Yes.
Yeah.
Of course, definitely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so
Okay.
much.